Welcome back, YouTubers, to another NXT review with me, Mr. Parkin, on behalf of the British Fist. If you have any comments on the show or on NXT in general, please put them, as per usual, in the comment section below. Now, as of next week, NXT is going to be moving to Wednesday nights. I believe it's 7, 8 Central or something like that on the WWE Network. My reviews, however, will be staying on Thursday nights. I don't really want to stay up late and watch the show live, so I'd rather let the show be put on the internet so I can watch it the next day, thoroughly analyze it, and give you at least a half decent to good review of the show. So while the show may be moving to Wednesday nights, and they've got quite a stacked show next week, which I'll go on to in this review, I'm going to stick to doing the reviews on Thursday nights and allowing the Q&As to stay on Wednesday nights, as they generally have been for some time now. So we opened up this show with the much anticipated return of the new NXT champion, Sami Zayn, and what a return it was. And I just really want to touch on something here. You know, Sami Zayn here talked about his connection with the crowd, or band, as he called them, while losing his voice. Now, in my opinion, what Sami Zayn has here with the crowd and the connection he has with the crowd is really what matters in pro wrestling. If you have a connection with the crowd, like Daniel Bryan did going into WrestleMania 30, you're gonna be something. And Sami Zayn, while he is on NXT and he's not on the main roster yet, he really does have a strong connection with the fans on NXT. And that is really important if you're gonna be a top guy going forward. Now, of course, he may not get that kind of reaction, or he may not get that kind of connection when he debuts on the main roster, but it's really evident here, and from the events that happened at NXT TakeOver Evolution, that Sami Zayn has something that most people in the WWE don't have, and that is a legitimate connection with the audience. Not many people can boast that, but Sami Zayn can. So we opened up with Sami Zayn, like I said, cutting a promo about his connection with the crowd, quickly addressing Kevin Owens, but really the matters here were more to do with setting up the rematch between Neville and Sami Zayn, and William Regal made that rematch happen next week. So, of course, next week they're kicking off on Wednesdays, as they alluded to many times in this show, and we're going to be getting Adrian Neville versus Sami Zayn as the main event. That should be a good draw, in my opinion, considering what happened at NXT TakeOver Evolution, to really entice people to watch the show on Wednesday. So, a really good opening promo segment here, in which I think really highlighted how much of a connection that Sami Zayn has with that crowd, and how really rare and special that is. Next week, we're also going to be getting Tyson Kidd versus Finn Balor. Hopefully this time we'll get a clean finish and a half-decent match between these two. And next week, we're going to be getting the collision of the Colossal Monsters. That's Baron Corbin and Bull Dempsey. They did a video package this week, and they've done so much with this feud now. I don't really feel they can do too much more, so they had to have them face off. They were very limited in their storytelling abilities here. So a video package before the match next week is a good way to go, and a breath of fresh air. So for next week's show, we've got Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn, NXT Championship, Tyson Kidd, Finn Balor, and Baron Corbin, Bull Dempsey. That's pretty much a full show there announced, I believe, going off the fact the main event will take up probably half, if not over half, of the show, potentially. So we've got a good lineup next week, which has been fully announced beforehand, which is good. You know, I must admit, I was really expecting a lot more from Hideo Itami and Curtis Axel. This was just a average match, which really just I will not remember, tomorrow. And is it just me? Am I the only one noticing this? But I haven't really been all that impressed with Hideo Itami as a singles wrestler. I really haven't. Whenever he's in singles competition, I just haven't seen really anything from this guy that would suggest to me that he could be some kind of top star for the company, other than the fact that he's Japanese and he can appeal in the Japanese/Asian market. You know, when he was in a tag team with Finn Balor, fine, good. He had a tag team partner with him. But on his own, I just haven't seen it yet. And I wonder if this is a result of maybe overhype from fans, or overhype from New Japan Pro Wrestling or whatever, or Noah, or wherever he came from. I just wonder if maybe Hideo Itami isn't adjusting to the WWE style very well. Maybe it's because he doesn't speak English and it's very difficult for him to tell a story. Maybe it's just because his moveset is very bland, in my opinion. I don't know. But I'm just not all that impressed by Hideo Itami. I really am not. On the other hand, I think Finn Balor, I posed this question last week. Would you have Finn Balor or would you have Hideo Itami in a main event spot going forward? And at this moment in time, I really would pick Finn Balor. Just haven't been impressed by Hideo Itami. I've been much more impressed with Finn Balor ever since he debuted on the NXT roster. As for Curtis Axel, you know, we lost to Hideo Itami here in about 5-6 minutes. And you just look at Curtis Axel and you just see something that typifies the WWE and what they've been doing in trying to create new stars. You know, this guy goes from feuding and beating guys like Triple H, John Cena. He feuds with CM Punk. He beats Chris Jericho numerous times. He had Paul Heyman as his manager, for fuck's sake. And now he's back on NXT and pretty much dead in the water. How many times have we seen stories like that happen in the WWE before? Now, while Curtis Axel, in my opinion, wasn't the most talented performer ever, I didn't really feel he was going to be a main eventer. It really makes you wonder why WWE put the rocket ship behind him and then just back off and don't really give him a chance to shine in the long run. It just sparks to me as to a big story as to what the WWE seems to be all about now. Come up from NXT, which is Triple H's baby, with so much potential, and then Vince McMahon gets his hands on you, and all of a sudden you're... It's just the way it seems to me. So Sasha Banks with Becky Lynch, of course, defeated Alexa Bliss very quickly in what was essentially an enhancement match. And, you know, you look at it from this standpoint. Sasha Banks has lost to Charlotte twice clean now in about a month. So before she goes on her next push or run or whatever, she needed to get a win on the cards, really, because she's the top heel on the roster, and you can't have the top heel losing twice clean in a row. So this was really only there to get a W in the W column for Sasha Banks going forward. And I do wonder when they're going to have that tag match. Maybe it'll be next week, maybe it'll be the week after, I don't know. But we had an interview with Natalia who said she had a match next week, and I believe that will be the tag match. So who really knows? At this moment in time, it's up in the air when that will happen. It wasn't advertised, so I imagine it won't happen next week. But then again, we've had it before where matches haven't been teased, not been advertised, and all of a sudden will just be announced in the opening or something on NXT the next week. So we had Tyler Breeze returning to NXT facing Chad Gable, who made his in-ring debut this week. And despite the fact that we didn't really get any video packages for Chad Gable, despite the fact we don't really know much about Chad Gable, despite the fact we don't really have anything relatable or anything in which we can connect to Chad Gable on a babyface level, it seemed like the crowd really liked him. You know, they were chanting his name, which, you know, is something considering he's going up against Tyler Breeze, who is generally unanimously chanted for like a babyface, even though he's a heel on the NXT roster. So that can only be a good thing for a Chad Gable going forward. As for this match, this is really an enhancement match, essentially. We saw a little bit of Chad Gable. Maybe we'll see a bit more from him later down the line. I hear he's in this Shoot faction or something on the live events, and maybe we'll see that happen soon on the roster. Who really knows? My one question about this match is the finish. You know, Tyler Breeze has just been put in the armbar on the ropes by Chad Gable, which is supposed to be a painful move, I imagine. And he gets out of that after the 5 count, and all of a sudden he just beats him with the beauty shot right there. You know, what is with finishes like that, where you go from painful move in the ropes to all of a sudden finishing the match? I imagine that they probably want to build up to a finish. Obviously not. And I just have a question also. You know, Tyler Breeze earlier this year was on some real momentum to the point where you could maybe see him as the NXT champion. He was getting promo segments on his own. He was doing his own music videos. He was facing some of the top baby faces on the roster. So why now is he feeling massively directionless? And why am I thinking to myself, what are they going to do with Tyler Breeze? You know, we had such momentum earlier on in the year. So why would you not capitalize on that even, and maybe give him some more feuds with some baby faces? Even if he does lose, at least he's the guy, the heel, that's got a little bit of momentum so he can put some damn baby faces over. So why he's just rolling around this directionless pit of doom on NXT right now, I don't really know. Maybe the NXT just don't have any baby faces lined up for him. Who knows? I sure as hell don't. And as for that finish, not the finish of the match, but the finish to the segment, where we saw that strange fellow in the backdrops after the match. It seemed like something you'd see out of a UFO sighting video when you know it's not really a UFO, but you kind of believe it because it looks like a UFO. It had that kind of feeling to me, like who the hell is this? And how the hell did they notice it? I don't know. It just felt really fucking odd to me. I don't really know what to say about it because it just came out of left field and was just so fucking odd. But there you go. Let's move on to the main event. The one match at NXT TakeOver at our Evolution that disappointed me a little bit, in my opinion, was the Vaudevillains versus the Lucha Dragons for the NXT Championship. So when I saw they were getting a rematch, I was hoping for a much better match from them, especially being in a main event slot. And, I didn't really get a good match. I thought it was an average match at best, which had a pretty good finish. A little spot hit. I don't know whether anyone else is spotting this, but is it me or when Kalisto and Sin Cara do the lucha, lucha, lucha? It really feels to me like Kalisto actually believes in the lucha chant, and it just seems like Sin Cara is just half-heartedly doing it. Just something I've spotted over the last weeks, and I just wondered if anyone else actually had. It just seems like Kalisto is putting more into the gimmick than Sin Cara, or Hunico under that mask. Maybe because Hunico knows the only reason he's in this tag team is essentially to put Kalisto over at the end of the day. I don't know, but it just seems like Kalisto is way more into the gimmick than Sin Cara. The finish was good, though. I liked the double team finish. I thought that was the shining moment of this match, which is exactly what a finish to a match should be. I just felt that everything leading to it was just average. And I expected a little bit better from these guys, especially in a main event slot on the show. So it really does beg the question now, what next for the Lucha Dragons? Maybe Buddy Murphy and Wesley Blake will hopefully be getting a push as like the new Heart Foundation or something, I don't know. But I hope in 2015 that those two get some kind of push, because like I've said before, while they debuted as NXT jobbers, even though they've been losing, I've been very impressed with these two guys and the way they work in the ring. And I think if given some more work on their characters, and if given some promo time, and if given some storylines, and if given some ability to get some heat, whether it's face heat or heel heat, I think these guys could be legitimate contenders for the Lucha Dragons at some point in 2015. It's just a question as to whether or not NXT want to go there with these two guys. I just don't really know any other tag teams right now that could really fight for those titles that could be heel. Maybe you could send Hideo, Itami, and Finn Balor at those titles, but really, in that case, you'd probably have to have them win, unless they're going to start a feud between Finn Balor and Hideo Itami, which I don't really think would work. Just thinking out loud here. But what's next for the Lucha Dragons? We will soon find out. As for the Vaudevillains, I think they've got enough character there to really be able to work any kind of storyline. Maybe have a storyline between them and Enzo and Cass. Team Soft wouldn't be a bad idea. Both two very entertaining characters, or tag team characters, that you could really do something with down the line. As for the show overall, started off really well. The opening promo segment was refreshing. Liked it. The reception from the crowd for Sami Zayn was fantastic. You don't see that very often in NXT. And the show really became kind of average. I mean, they did a good job spotlighting next week with three matches on that show announced ahead of time. But Hideo Itami and Curtis Axel, I just thought was average. Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks was a squash match. Tyler Breeze versus Chad Gable was a squash match with no real storyline elements there. And the main event, like I said, just was average, and I just expected a lot better from these guys. So that's how I felt about this week's show. Some of it was kind of pointless, but maybe had a point to it down the line, so I don't really know whether it was or whether it wasn't pointless yet. And other aspects of it, to me, just kind of disappointed me. That's just how I felt this week. Maybe things will change next week, though, and I'm sure it will. Maybe this was just a bit of a blip in the scale, so we'll see what happens next week. If you have any comments on the show, of this very lengthy review as well, I might add, apologies for that in advance. Put the comments in the comment section below, and I'll see you next week. See you later.